Film Club.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Film Club. I'm one of your hosts, Andy Harrison, and with me, as always, it's Andy Donaldson.
Hello.
Every week in Film Club, we invite you along to watch a film with us, but this week, Amy Ridley has invited us to watch Whale Rider.
Whale Rider is the story of Pi's upbringing. She's a young girl, has a bit of trauma at the start. Her mother unfortunately dies of childbirth, and she loses her twin brother as well. She goes through life trying to do better, trying to make her grandfather proud. Her grandfather expects more from her in the sense that he wanted a grandson. He wanted kind of like the traditional values of a male heir leading forward. Pi does her best to try and live up to that image despite his backlash. And it's a really endearing story of a push and desire to be that individual, but also with loving support of a family to an extent, and also a community around them. And it's directed by Niki Caro. It moved me massively. It was a brilliant film with some stunning performances, and one kind of a film that on a kind of like a quite a deep subject, something we haven't really touched at with like so culturally impactful, at least for me, not knowing anything or much about the culture. Something like The Twilight Samurai, it kind of really resonated with me in that respect, similar to that film. Really good recommendation.
That first sequence where Pi is being born and her dad's there, and then her mum obviously passes away, but her granddad comes running in and doesn't really want to see her. He wants to go and see the twin that has died during childbirth as well. You immediately get this really sort of like harrowing feeling. What I love about it in sort of when we were discussing stuff like Kes, is that it doesn't just lean on that harrowing experience and then really sort of driven you into the ground with how horrible things are. It's completely uplifting. That cut, for example, from how upset her grandfather is that we've lost the son that was going to become the new leader and all this sort of stuff, and that gorgeous cut that goes into the two of them riding the bike together years later after he's grown to love her is incredible.
I love seeing those shots of him just riding the bike with her on it. It's really kind of nice family kind of image, despite some of the content in this film, despite the kind of the issues she faces growing up and being a girl. It's Maori tradition, and it's set on Wangara. That's where the books, because it's based on a book, that's where the book's based. So what Niki Caro did is actually make sure that it was in the right location. There was made sure that I think the island shaped like a whale or something. Just everything's embedded in this particular location, and all the traditions surrounding this. So of course, why not do Rail Rider on that island?
This basically launched Niki Caro's career, and I think having such a success in terms of not only creating a dramatic story, but creating one that's full of humanity, and it represents the Maori people in a great light that isn't just comedic as well, right? Because we've talked before about the fact that right now New Zealand comedy's having a bit of a resurgence, especially because of people like Taika Waititi, who himself is actually
Clements.
He's Maori as well. They're really selling this idea that the humor in the minute and the humor that is ingrained in New Zealand comedy can resonate around the world. And that's wonderful. That is really, really great. But I love that this gives us a chance to appreciate New Zealand filmmaking in a more serious manner.
Yes, yeah. And that's what I love about Film Club, just those little films that you get recommended, and it kind of moves you, and those little experiences. And it's, again, we've got up Niki Caro, a testament to her and her team is finding this cast, because the cast are brilliant. The cast is Keisha Castle-Hughes, who I only really know from... she's one of the Sand Sisters in Game of Thrones. I don't think I've seen her in much else. She's absolutely fantastic. Some absolute heavy lifting from her. You really feel the character. You really feel her urge to prove herself, her urge to go above the norms of tradition and be that person. And then equally, you also have this lovely on-off kind of chemistry, like endearing but also kind of objective, that's the right word to use, a relationship with her grandfather, Rawiri Parateni. He again, he does so much emotion through little body language, but through his face, and he can convey such kind of anger and disappointment through, as he said in that start scene when he's wanting to go in the hospital. or there he's on a bike, he's got that kind of stern face, but he's riding away and she's loving life. It's brilliant. Their chemistry is class. It's brilliant. But at the same time, they do so much heavy lifting themselves, both of them. Which obviously the film's a lot of it's based around their relationship.
The two of them really do hold the film for the most part, and I think the most impressive one there has got to be Keisha Castle-Hughes, right? Like that sequence where she goes up on stage to do her performance, and her grandfather hasn't turned up, and she's sort of like she's fighting through the tears, and she's dealing with very complex emotions. She's dealing with like the understanding that her grandfather is entrenched in an old way of thinking. She's challenging some of it, but trying to be respectful at the same time. But she's also trying to make sure that she gets heard and her voice is heard and progress is made. And all of that sort of like is strings together and culminates in this sequence where, you know, she stands on that stage and just will, if you're in the audience, she will break your heart.
Yeah, that was a really moving moment. It was brilliant. And again, testament to her. We have some really, really cool imagery. The soundtrack as well is mesmerizing. It's so like ethereal, sorry. But the images especially towards the end when she's sat in a whale and it's the whales in the water and it just kind of flows in and out and it kind of conveys the whole story of tradition so well. You know, we understand where the end goal is, the end point. We understand her legacy, Pi's legacy, and I was absolutely gobsmacked that how the hell they put those images together of the whale, you know, the whales in the water. It's so well edited to make it look real, because I don't think she sat in a real whale. Not to be daft.
So the whales themselves were a mixture of like quite large animatronic puppetry, some footage of some real whales, and then also a little bit of VFX to finish it off.
But it's subtle, and it's so well used that as I said, it flows together and it's brilliant. So it really, that especially moved me as well, and just how the whole society comes together, and the end scene where the Maori people are singing, they're on the boat. I think they're doing a haka, aren't they? And it's just, it's moving, and you just see her. I love this shot, and again, we were talking about the relationship between the grandfather and granddaughter. The chemistry between the actors, that lovely image of those two sat together on the bench, and he's just looking down at her, so proud, and it's all she wanted, and she's leading the way. It's just, it was touching, really touching.
Yeah, I'm surprised at how cerebral the film got towards the end. It does become this like cacophony of like, you know, audio and visual coming together to just give you a feeling and a sensation rather than giving you a clear plotting. And like, I really appreciate the film for doing that.
Absolutely.
So anyway, there is Whale Rider. Thank you once again to Amy Ridley for recommending Whale Rider. And if you want to recommend a film of your own, please let us know in the comments below. But Andy and I are going to be back once again next week, where it's time to take a look at Matilda.
I like my cake, me.
Till then, get watching.